Hey, what up, guys? I'm coming to you this morning with the what's next on, once again, unified heavyweight champion of the world, Anthony Joshua of the United Kingdom. Joshua main evented a DAZN card on Saturday, December 7th, when he took on Andy Ruiz Jr. in a rematch from their June bout, where Ruiz scored a major upset over the previously unbeaten Joshua. He stopped him in 7 rounds. This time, Joshua came out 10 pounds lighter. Ruiz was 15 pounds heavier, and Joshua boxed well, stayed away, and pretty much dominated the action and didn't allow Ruiz to really do much because Ruiz didn't really put his foot on the gas pedal. So, yeah, Joshua got a clean, one-sided, 12-round unanimous decision, and now, you know, the big question is, what's next for Anthony Joshua? Well, he's kind of in a dilemma. He's got a couple mandatory title fights in front of him, and he might end up having to vacate. So, gonna run through the top 10 just in case he's got to vacate both belts. You know, and we're also gonna look at the 2 options that he has, or maybe even more options. So, we're just gonna run through the top 10 each guy and see what is possible for next for Anthony Joshua. So, we're gonna start with number 1. Currently, I got Joshua at number 3 in the heavyweight landscape. So let's start with number 1, Deontay Wilder, the dream fight that everybody wants to see. This fight is not happening next. Wilder's facing Tyson Fury in February. He's got a mandatory due after that, and Joshua is going to have a mandatory due, at least one mandatory due in his next fight, which we don't know when that's taking place as of yet. I'm thinking probably April at the earliest. Hopefully sooner than that, though. Number 2 is undefeated Tyson Fury, former unified champ. Again, this one's not going to happen. He's fighting Wilder next, and if he were to beat Wilder in a rematch, then you got Dillian Whyte waiting around as the mandatory to that title that he would win. So, yeah, I don't think there's any chance that Joshua and Fury fight next or anytime soon. Now, number 4, since Joshua's number 3, number 4 is Andy Ruiz Jr., the former unified champ. This would be a 3rd fight. Now, Joshua came out and said he would fight Ruiz again, but he's not going to be able to do it and hold on to his belts. So, it's just not going to happen to hold on at least to all 3 of his belts, or at least 2 of them, because he might end up getting stripped of at least one of those 3 titles that he has. So, he has to make a mandatory next, and Andy Ruiz is not that mandatory. So, right now, a 3rd fight is just not on the table next for Anthony Joshua. Number 5 is former world title challenger Luis Ortiz. Not going to happen next. He's not one of the mandatories. So, just not an option for Anthony Joshua next. Number 6 is undefeated, former undisputed cruiserweight champion Alexander Usyk. I think right now this might be the most likely opponent for Anthony Joshua. The reason I say that is both the WBO and the IBF titles that he holds, he has mandatories due on both of those belts. Now, it looked like he was going to make his IBF mandatory first, which is Kubrat Pulev, but the WBO has come out and ordered him to face Alexander Usyk for their title next. Now, if he has to choose, I believe he's going to choose the Usyk fight because they're both promoted by the same people, with Matchroom and Eddie Hearn. It's an easy fight to make for DAZN, and Usyk is the bigger name, more money. So I think he would vacate the IBF title and take on Usyk instead next. So I think that's the more likely opponent if he gets backed into a corner and has to choose which title he's willing to give up and which title he wants to hold on to and defend in a mandatory fight next. So I think this is probably his next opponent if he gets backed into that corner. Now, next, number 7 is Dillian Whyte, which will be a rematch from I think it was their 2016 bout where Joshua knocked him out. Whyte, I mean, this is a fight that a lot of people want to see. I would love to see a rematch between these 2 guys. Their first fight was great, but I just don't think it's possible because Whyte is a mandatory due for the WBC. Joshua's got his 2 mandatories due, so I just don't think Whyte is in the picture next for Anthony Joshua. Number 8 is former WBO champion Joseph Parker. This will be a rematch from their, I want to say this was their 2018 battle where Joshua beat Parker by a decision and unified belts, took the WBO title from him. This is not an appealing fight, and right now he's got mandatories due, so I just don't see Joshua, considering Parker as an option. Number 9 is Alexander Povetkin, which would be another rematch of a 2018 bout when Joshua knocked Povetkin out in 7 rounds. Not one of his mandatories, so this fight's not possible. And then number 10, we got a 2-way tie for 10th. I got Michael Hunter. They fight for the same promotion, but just doesn't make sense to face Hunter next. And he's not one of his mandatories, so I don't see it. And then the final tied for 10th is former world title challenger Kubrat Pulev. Now, this is Joshua's other mandatory. Now, I believe if Joshua is allowed to choose between his 2 mandatory opponents, which is Usyk and Pulev, I believe Joshua is going to choose Pulev. And the reason why is he wants to hold on to that belt. And it builds up a fight with Usyk, so Usyk could go fight for the interim belt or take an optional fight in between instead of fighting Joshua next. And this builds up their fight for the second half of the year, because that is a big time fight right there between him and Usyk. But he has to, it really depends on if both governing bodies squeeze him to defend that title, because if they do, to where he's got to make a choice, I don't think the title that he doesn't choose, I don't think they're going to wait around for him. The reasons why is Bob Arum has Kubrat Pulev, so if Joshua chooses to face Usyk next, Bob Arum's not going to wait around for Pulev to fight in the second half of the year against Joshua. And the reason why is because Pulev's been waiting for well over a year now. He became the mandatory in October of 2018. It's December of 2019 now, and their fight wouldn't be able to pop off till April. So we're looking at a year and a half. If he's got to wait any longer than that, we're looking at close to 2 years by the time he finally gets his mandatory title shot. And Bob Arum wants to hold one of the heavyweight titles desperately, and Pulev would be his option right now. So he would not wait around if Joshua decides to face Alexander Usyk. Now, if the WBO might be willing to wait around for Kubrat Pulev, Joshua to face Pulev next. So again, if they allow him to choose, I think he's going to face Pulev to get that out of the way, hold on to his titles, because I don't think he's got to worry too much about Kubrat Pulev. I think Joshua kicks the shit out of Pulev, but he might not have that option. He might be forced into a fight with Usyk next, and then that title is going to become vacant. So very interesting here. I really think the 2 options are either Alexander Usyk or Kubrat Pulev for Anthony Joshua next for the heavyweight title. But we got to wait and see, because these scenarios and how they work. But I do believe we are going to know sometime soon about which direction Anthony Joshua is going to be going in, and if he's going to have to give up one of those titles. I hope he doesn't. I am in favor of one champion and unified champions, because it makes the each division more clear about who the man is. But he might be forced into a position because of the loss to Andy Ruiz Jr. If he didn't lose to Andy Ruiz, he would have made his mandatory against Pulev, and then he could focus on facing Usyk next year. He lost to Ruiz in that first fight. He had a mandatory rematch clause, and both governing bodies granted exceptions for that rematch to happen. Now he might have to choose, and if he does, I believe it's going to be Usyk, which would be a big fight. That's a huge fight right there. So we just got to wait and see. But that's the what's next on Anthony Joshua, the unified heavyweight champion of the world. All right, guys, True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.